Hey, welcome to the Huntsville Hustle podcast. We're going to highlight the local small business owners, the backbone of our area right here. And today we're going to feature another awesome nonprofit in here that's doing some crucial work you might not have heard of right here in the Rocket City. We have Mr. Keith Lowhorne. He's with Grandparents as Parents, and they're doing this crucial work of stepping up and filling the gaps for parents that can't do their parental role. So welcome to the show, Keith. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, sir. So in case people haven't heard, what is Grandparents as Parents, and how were you inspired to get started here in Huntsville?
Yeah, thank you very much. Grandparents as Parents is a home-based program. It's a nonprofit organization that's got an EIN number from the government. And so we operate as a nonprofit for the grandparents who are raising their grandchildren, and they have no other resources because there are no other resources. And the reason we started is because my wife Edie and I, 5 years ago, actually 5 years ago tomorrow, one of our granddaughters was born, and she was born addicted. And she was born addicted to LSD, heroin, cocaine, and marijuana. And you say that, but that's a low amount of drugs that were in her system compared to her brother, who will soon be 12. And he was born with so many drugs in his system that the doctors were having to concoct these medical cocktails to offset one drug, and then that drug would probably help the other one, or it wouldn't help it. And so they had to make this it was just a special time and so thankful for those doctors and nurses in the NICU at Huntsville Hospital. Byron was in there for 3 months. Harper was in there for a month. Immediately after Harper was born, she was arrested. The hospital knew she was high. She had actually taken some drugs right before she went to the hospital. It was caught on camera. So they arrested her as soon as the baby was born, and they took the baby to the NICU. She was arrested. And then the next day, we actually got custody of both Kyron and Harper. And they have lived with us ever since. That was a long custody battle. They went from custody to having to fight in court. And then finally, about a year and a half later, after we started, Kyron and Harper were adopted by me and my wife. And so now they are our children. Our names are on their birth certificate. I, at 60 years old, had a new baby, which I always like to make fun of. But they're living with us, and there was just no help. And that's why Grandparents as Parents was born. It really started during the pandemic, and it has just grown since.
I know people are listening. It's, oh man, that's a pretty rare case, but I mean, maybe the drug addiction part is. But tell us what the stats are on the grandparents raising kids.
Well, it's pretty interesting because it's everywhere. It doesn't matter who you are, what color you are, where you live, how much money is in your bank, and what kind of color your car, and how much it costs. There are about 300,000 grand families in the state of Alabama. There are about 100,000 north of Coleman to the Georgia line, to the Mississippi line, to the Tennessee line. So that's really just the North Alabama area. And then when you count Madison County, Limestone County, and Morgan County, which we call the metro area, there's about 60,000. So there are a bunch of families. Now let's classify what a grand family is, because that's a new federal term that hasn't been around that long. A grand family, it could be a grandparent who's raising a grandson or a relative. It can be an aunt, uncle, brother, sister, stepbrother, cousin. It can be any of those things. It's all relative caregivers, but they're lumped under the title of grandparents. Even those that we call fictive kin. Fictive kin could be like you're the next door neighbor to a child, and something happens to, and you've been in that child's life for most of their life, and something happens to the parents that live next door to you. There could be cases that you could get custody of that child because you know him better than anybody else. Preachers do that sometimes. Teachers, there are a lot of teachers that help raise these children, which is just a huge blessing. But it's not just in Alabama. Alabama's one of the worst. The South is terrible in figures, but it's around this country. There's millions, 2.7 million grandparents are raising grandchildren in the United States, and that number is climbing. That's the ones we know. That's the ones that we know from the Census Bureau, from the IRS, from Generations United, from Casey Family Foundation, the Dave Thomas Foundation. All these very well-known organizations put these numbers together, so they are very, very well documented. But we have another problem because there's a lot of intergenerational that goes on. So I was raised by my grandparent. I'm raising my grandchildren. More than likely, my grandchildren will raise other grandchildren. And that can be in a lot of homes. It's in a lot of Hispanic homes. It's a lot of African-American homes. And the numbers climbing in the white population. So it's a phenomenal that it doesn't matter who you are. And I think that's the one thing. But I can say this, but probably everybody that's listening to this podcast They probably know someone that's in this situation. They may not think about it, but if they sit down and think about, oh, yeah, Mary down the street, she's raising her grandchildren, or God, you know that couple that sits next to us at church that always has the little children? They're probably raising their grandchildren too. So it's everywhere. It is everywhere, and it can affect everyone because
Exactly. We were
you're
talking a little bit before we came on about how
yeah
once your eyes are open to this, you will
yeah
notice it everywhere. You'll start
oh
seeing it everywhere for sure.
it's eye opening for me. There's not a day that goes by that there's so many stories, and there's so many of us that have the same story. We could attach my story to 1,500 or 15,000 other people. Just change the names. That's all you do, because all drugs, it's imprisonment, it's death, it's just mental health. But you know what we're seeing more and more of is just abandonment. Parents are dropping their kids off with a grandparent, more likely. There could also be another relative, and then they're never heard from again. It's just, and that's growing more and more and faster in our area, and I don't see it. I don't see the reason why,
Yeah.
but it happens.
Man, that's awful. I didn't know about that one. So I thought
Yeah,
I'd figure about the other ones. But
yeah.
so I mean, what do you think see as kind of the biggest challenges grandparents? Obviously, they weren't expecting this. All of a sudden, they've got this new kid in their life. What are the
Yeah.
challenges they're going through right now?
Wow, then the things that they have to go through is life changing, because their life does change, and it changes at an older rate, because they're more 55 and older. But we've got grandparents that are in their 30s. We got a grandparent that's 36 years old. Can you imagine being a grandparent? I can't. It was hard to be a parent at 36, much less raising a 12-year-old child who just had a baby, which is just remarkable in itself. But these grandparents are stepping up. They don't. There's no help. There's no financial help for grandfamilies unless you adopt and you're old enough to get retirement or Social Security, and then that helps you. But that's a lot of steps that you have to go through. Education is a problem because a lot of schools don't understand this, and in most cases, what we find is at least 25% of the student population are being raised by a relative, mostly grandparents. There's one school in Madison County that is almost 75% being raised by a grandparent, which is just huge. We went up there to have a talk, and we took some food, and it was it was like there were so many grandparents, and they were in such need that we were just like, just take what you want, take what you need, take what you want, and let us come back and let us help you. And we've done a couple of we worked with another nonprofit called Nexus Energy Center, and they helped us energize homes of grandparents who are raising their grandchildren. And we've done, probably 15 homes where we've gone in and lowered their utility rates by 25%,
Wow.
which is average 25%. There's been some like in the low 30s, and some lower because of just the housing condition. But the most recent, last year, I think it was November, December of last year, we went into a lady's house up in North Madison County, and the technician that helps us, he went into the house and he was like, "No, we gotta get out." The furnace that she had been using for many years was not right. It had not been put in properly, and there was flames going where flames weren't supposed to go. So that had caused all kinds of problems, and her utility bill was about $600 to $700 a month.
Goodness.
And the house was only maybe 1,400 square foot. So we immediately, I called the CEO of Nexus Energy Center. I said, "Look, hey, this is a problem, and we need help today. We need to know what we can do today." And they were like, "Take care of it, whatever you need." And we spent over $10,000 on that home, which is just a blessing. And that family calls me occasionally, and they go, "Oh, we're warm this day. We're so warm under this cold day." Or, "Man, it's cold out here," and we're going inside. Or in the summertime, they're staying cool. So that's a blessing. That's the kind of blessing that we want to give our grandfamilies. Unfortunately, there's not enough money out there to do things like that for every grandparent or every relative. But we try to help. We're there for food, which is how we really got started. Is the pandemic started and our phones started ringing off the hook. It was before that Edie and I had said, yes, we've got to do something, because being in the television news business for 43 years, I thought I knew everyone and about everything. Well, this was a phenomenon that I had never heard of. And when we walked into the NICU on the first night that Kyron was born, man, we entered a world that was dark. We entered a world that was just, I don't wish that on anybody. The screams and the hollers and the doctors and nurses running around and just saving these kids with these life. And, I can get emotional about it because, good God, what would we do without these nurses and doctors in that specialized unit? And it's just wonderful that Huntsville Hospital and other hospitals are expanding their NICUs. A lot of people say it's because of Huntsville getting bigger and a lot of things, but nurses tell me it's because of the drug babies that are being born in their hospitals and they're having to have more care. But in the pandemic started in 2020 and our phones started ringing off the hook. And we were like, what can we do? So I called a good friend of mine. And she doesn't like me to tell her who she is, but she is well known in this town. And man, let me tell you, she is an angel. She doesn't like publicity. She says it's God's work and that she's just helping people and do what God told her to do. So since 2020, we have gotten food from her, along with other people, Walmart, Publix, Panera, Kroger, anybody that will give us food, we'll take. And since the pandemic, since 2020, we have passed out 162 tons of food from our driveway. We don't have a building. Well, we have a building now, but that was just given in the last couple of months to us. And we can talk about that in a few minutes. But man, from our driveway, and we live in an HOA neighborhood. And the first couple of times that we had these, 20 or 30 cars or 50 cars or whatever it was lined up down the street, people were going, what are the Lowhorns doing? What are they doing? So they sent the HOA president down here. And we talked, and I said, look, this is what we're doing. And he came on a night where there were cars and people were getting food, and he saw it firsthand. And he said, don't you worry. He says, we got this under control. He says, you do what you need to do, and we'll be behind you. Never another other word. In fact, some of our neighbors come on nights that we do it here at the house and help us, and they help deliver food. They help the kids. They play with the kids in the front yard because that's, the kids are growing up together. Since we've been doing this, some of the kids have grown up with Kyron, and now they're growing up with Harper and their friends. And it's like, hey, it's like a reunion day here. And it's, we love it. And the grandparents and caregivers, we've given food to foster families. We're not picky. We got the food. We had the means to get it. We share it. That's the biggest thing. And when we do food nights, we find it's very interesting that our grandparents, they take what they need. They may not take what they want, and they leave others for other people. It doesn't matter if it's those lucky days when we get hamburger and steak, which are very rare these days. But if we get that, they take what they want. They may want 3 or 4 steaks, but they may take 1 or 2. And it's wild to see it in action, but it's a miracle. I mean, it's a miracle every time we pick up food. It's a miracle every time that somebody comes and gets food. And it's really, 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 we can be so thankful that we're allowing these kids and these grandparents to have nutritious food, and they can have a good dinner around the table.
Man, that's a beautiful thing right there. When you start feeding people, man, that's when you're
that's the key right there. That's the key.
That's it. And I have a guess who that person might be. I'll have to do it off air, but I got to guess who it might be.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Most people will when I describe her as the angel of Huntsville.
Yeah. It's not
which is what I call
you were telling me about a postcard that you guys send out that I think is kind of gets to the heart of what you do. Can you share what that postcard is and how you guys help with that?
Yeah, the postcard that you're referring to is which one?
Yes. The one you're talking about how first thing you want to send them to let them know.
Oh, okay. When we first find out of her grandparent, yeah, we've got some brochures that we hand out. We love to meet with them. We now have a building, or part of a building. There's a local business that's called the Dance Factor. Harper has gone to that school for the last 3 years. And Michael Clark, who is the owner, has grown dramatically. He outgrew his building. He found this other building. We went and looked at it one night, and it was like, wow, you could be able to grow in this place. This is good. And then we went back to this other section that was closed off, and we went back there, and he said, and now this is gaps. And we were like, well, what do you mean? He says, this is your area to do with what you want, and to help you get some of the stuff out of your house and garage, and you can be here. And man, you talk about emotional. Man alive. That was like, because we knew we were outgrowing everything. We knew we were at a point that we were spending $800 a month of our money, not the organization's money, but our money on storage units that housed, non-perishable foods, that had hired some Christmas stuff that we gathered through the years, canned goods. It was just a plethora of stuff that we had in these storage units. we were able to cut that down to one storage unit, which we hope that's going to soon go disappear as soon as we can. The daycare, it used to be a daycare, this place that Michael actually is leasing. And so everything was on a child's level. Toilets were on a child's level, sinks were on a child's level. The rooms were decorated for children, things like that. And so the whole building, Michael on his side, started a redecoration project. We on our side started our redecoration, and within about a month and a half, we had taken this daycare and made it into a pretty nice little place that we can have grandparents come and meet and we can talk. There's food there, there's clothes there, there's a room full of food. There's a room full of clothes and shoes and underwear that we just say, take what you need. If you're a new grandparent, we know that you don't have the money to go stock what you may need at your house. So here, if it's here, you can have it. And that may be mattresses, that could be a bed, that could be clothes, that could be socks, that could be anything. And we just freely say, hey, take what you need. And then, we'll be blessed along the way. And somehow the coffers always get filled with either food or clothes. And we're just excited.
That's excellent right there.
Yeah.
It's amazing how when you're doing some work, people come alongside you and see you,
Yeah.
and they want to help out too as well. So
And
I'm sure there's grandparents out there, they kind of feel like they're ashamed or they're isolated or they don't feel like they should need help, but they need the help. How do you get people to move past that and kind of embrace that support?
I am guilty of the first degree because when Harper was born, I did not go to the NICU. For the month that she was in there, I didn't go. And I didn't go because I didn't want to live that again. That was hard. That was very hard for me. And I've never had a young child, like a young baby in my life, a young female baby in my life. And I knew I would get attached to her. So, and my wife understood. I was still working. I was about ready to retire. It was about a month before I retired. And so we decided that I wouldn't go to the hospital. Edie would always go to the hospital and sit with the baby. And she was there probably 18, 20 hours a day. And I would stay home with Kyron, who was still having withdrawals from his drugs. So, and it's really an ongoing situation. He's got a lot of problems related to being born addicted. So I had to sit with him in a chair and just squeeze him as tight as I could. And I'm a kind of big guy, and I squeezed him, and that was the only time he stopped crying, and he fell asleep. And if I released him, he just wouldn't. He would start crying and screaming, which is what a drug baby does when they're withdrawn. Because Joe, I don't wish that on anybody. Not anybody, God. And then we had my mother here at the same time. My mother was almost 90 years old. And so I was like the babysitter for two, and Edie took care of the baby. And when Harper came home, man, and you talk about it, she put her in my arms, and I hadn't let go of her yet. She is the apple of my eye. That baby is spoiled rotten. She gets what she wants, despite if mama says no. And she's gotten to that age now, which I know I'm in trouble. She got that age and Edie will say no, and she'll say, "Well, Daddy will say it's okay." So she's smart on top of everything. She just she turns 5 tomorrow. So I'm in trouble.
Hey, God gave me a son and not a daughter for a reason. I'd been the same way. I get it. I get
It's
it.
rough. It's rough. I mean, her closet is bigger than mine. She has more shoes than me and my wife. And her room is. We built our house, and we built a mother-in-law suite on because we knew one of our parents was going to end up living with us just because of age. And my mother lived in that room, and when she passed, and Harper was ready for her room, of course it got painted pink. Everything in the room is pink, and she has her own bathroom. She has this big closet. She has a pretty good size room to play in. Nobody's going to go in that room. It's all her. It's
Oh, that's
all
great.
hers.
When you look at kind of the biggest needs of the organization right now, when you're looking at grandparents, parents, what do you guys need the most right now?
Well, I'll never deny that we need money the most because we have to do this operation. I mean, we use a lot of personal money to travel. We use a lot of personal money to go to places that I'm speaking. We use a lot of money for storage. We use money for a lot of things that, sometimes you just don't say, well, we didn't get enough turkeys for Thanksgiving. So we go buy turkeys, and we don't, it's just one of those things that we know that some of our folks really, really, really need food. And we're blessed, so we want to bless others. And so we try not to let anyone down with what they may need. But money is always the key. Money is always the key to success of any nonprofit, not just us. But we want to expand. Our office is now called a one-stop shop. And that's what it's going to become. Our board of directors went to Las Vegas last year and I had become acquainted with the CEO of a nonprofit called Foster Kinship. And let me tell you, that is a world-renowned organization that operates throughout the state of Nevada, and they're saving taxpayers about $1 million to $1.5 million a year, taking care of half of the children that are in Alabama. So we would save, once our program gets started and we get some politicians off their butt to help us, and I mean that local, state, and national, we could save some money for other people to pass out or to give it to other grandparents or something. A one-stop shop is basically just that. I call it the Walmart of a nonprofit. It's everything is under one roof. A grandparent comes into our organization. We get to advocate for them. We get to talk to them. We get to find out who, what, when, and where, and why. And then we can help them go where they need to go. We actually want in our building, we want places, we want DHR here. We want someone from Social Security. We want someone from food stamps, from WIC, from the health department that we can do like if they need food stamps or if they qualify for food stamps, they can qualify for it under our roof. If they qualify for anything from DHR, which more likely they won't, but DHR controls a lot of those legal things. So a DHR needs to be here for that. The WIC office, if it's a baby, born to 4, they automatically get WIC. And we want that to happen immediately. We don't want our grandparents to travel over 5 or 6 different places to our town to find what they need only to run in bureaucratic nightmares, which is what happens because one organization says, well, no, you got to go back here first, or no, you got to go there, and then you come there, and then we'll try to work it out. And so you may be sitting in line, you may be, waiting, you may be having to travel around town multiple times. And what do you have with you? You have your grandchildren with you because more than likely they're not in school because they're too young. You can't afford a babysitter because they get no money. And that's it. That's where a grandparent is. They're in that situation because in some cases, the grandfather or the grandmother has had to go back to work. So it's like having a single parent at home with the kids. And it's hard to do. It's hard. I mean, it was hard for us taking 2 when they were little, especially one that's special needs. That's a very difficult situation, but we think we deserve it. We think our grandparents deserve it, not just anybody, just our grandparents who need a shoulder to listen. We need someplace for them to understand what their rights are, what they can do, and what they shouldn't do. But let me tell you, money is huge. Legal is phenomenal because our grandparents want to adopt their grandchildren after the parents are no longer involved at all, but they cannot afford a legal service. Ours was $40,000 to adopt our 2 children and to run the court case. $40,000. That's a lot of money. We were blessed. That was our traveling to Europe money, which is what we were planning on doing as soon as I retired. But instead, we got 2 kids that we're raising. We go to conferences, we travel. Harper's on the dance team, the competition dance team, I guess is what they call it. And so we have trips planned for 4 or 5 times this year where we'll be traveling. And it's oh man, it's just if we could find us a lawyer that could help, that would just give us a discount. I mean, I imagine their doors could probably be blown off the door. I mean, it could be like a Walmart. Walmart's got everything, and a lawyer may suffer sometimes because of whatever it may be. And man, we could get a grandparent in there to give a couple $100 to do the work. And we have some grandparents that actually do the work. The probate judge here, I forget his name,
Judge Barger.
Judge Barger, yeah. Now, Judge Barger is all about family. And we've gone before him, in addition to ours, I bet we've gone before him probably 15 or 20 times with grandparents or relatives who are adopting children. And it's, he has a heart for kids, whether it's foster kids or adoptive or whatever it may be. And let me tell you, he's good because you can get paperwork from the probate judge if there's been a problem with the parents not seeing the child or just totally, they're totally out of the picture. You can file papers within the probate judge and you have to fill them out and you can take them back. Now they can't tell you, all they can tell you if it's right or if it's wrong. They can't tell you if what's wrong because that would be giving legal advice. They can just say it's wrong. So that's hard on grandparents because they look at it and they go, what's wrong? And you can't get an answer. So legal is bad. Education is bad because we have some grandparents that have a hard time getting kids into school because in some cases they don't have any papers. They were just dropped off by mom and dad. Mom and dad's gone. The kids are just left there and there's no paperwork. So that's a nightmare. just trying to get that resolved. And even though schools are supposed to accept that student through a federal act, they don't in some cases, and it just causes problems because we need the kids that are in school to be in school. And so we need our schools to make different rules for those grand families because there's a whole bunch of them, and I guarantee you there's going to be more in the coming days, which I think is going to bring on a mental health problems or mental health issues in our schools than we have now. And we got a bunch of problems now. So we have more children that are being born addicted that have lifelong suffering of issues, and our schools are not prepared for that. You cannot take one therapist for 500 or 600 kids and see them every week. You cannot take two therapists and see 600 kids. We have got to start thinking about putting more physical and mental therapists in our schools and help these kids because these kids are our future. You know, in some cases, you know, you hear about all these parents are withdrawing their kids from school. Well, a lot of it is because they cannot get the help they need in the schools and they have to go elsewhere. And in our case, I can very well tell you, we had to withdraw Kyron from school and Harper and homeschool them because the schools could not offer the therapies that he was supposed to be getting. They said you cannot miss school for X number of days. Yeah, you can check him out for the therapist after X number of days. He'll be absent, and he'll get all those warnings and all that stuff, and then eventually he'll get kicked out of school. And we were like, wait, so you're telling us we have to choose between his mental health and all those issues and his education? I'm a big, huge public education person. Love it. Went to public schools, graduated from public schools in college, and let me tell you, I thought it was the best. But what we had to do for Kyron was to take him out so we can go to 20 hours of therapy a week. 20 hours that boy goes to, 4 hours a day. That doesn't count traveling to and from. And I am so blessed because my wife does 99.9% of that while I'm doing other things with GAP and things like that. And I am blessed. I'm blessed for those therapists that are helping Kyron, the big, huge places that there needs to be more of, and there needs to be more therapists. There needs to be all these different things that are new that probably nobody ever thought about, 5 or 10 years ago because it wasn't a phenomenon. Even though it is, grandparents raising grandchildren has been going on since day one, and it will continue to go on for a long time as long as there's drugs or there's choices that people make that are bad, and the grandparents are going to be the front line because that's the ones that more than likely will take up that slack and fill the gap. That's our slogan: is fill in the gap. Grandparents as parents, and because we're filling the gap and we're helping others fill the gap that they have in their families. And so it's a blessing for us to be able to do this work. It's a blessing for every dollar we get. Our Christmas for Kim program is kicking off. Once again, we are so thankful for Freedom Real Estate and Torch Technologies, who have loaned us a building for 3 months. It's a 5,000 square foot building that we get to use free of charge to put our Christmas for Ken in. And our Christmas for Ken program is, let me tell you, it's phenomenal how it works. And we've already beaten and topped last year's record already. And how we do this is we actually ask grandparents to give us a list of exactly what the kids want. It could be a blue bike, it could be a red bike, it could be a doll with brown hair, it could be a brown doll with dark hair, it could be anything. Then we take that list, and then it also includes clothes. It includes all these different things that children, they don't want, but they need, and everybody knows they need clothes. So we add all that situation to it, and then we find donors who will actually take that list and go buy exactly what's on that list. That's why we say come early, get the kids. You won't have to worry about the Christmas rush and missing things, and that child will wake up on Christmas morning with what Christmas is supposed to be, which is a joyous time. And it is just amazing to us when these grandparents and relatives send us videos and pictures of these kids walking into the room under the Christmas tree and they see these things. And it's just like, yeah, I cry at Christmas on Christmas morning for what these kids get, and it's entirely too much. But man, let me tell you, when we see pictures and videos of those kids opening up presents, it'll get you down. It will make you emotional, and it will flat out make you go, God, I'm thankful. I am so thankful that there's somebody stepped up, and companies. We have a lot of companies that are doing this and adopting 20, 30, 40, 50 kids. This year we're gonna top between 400 and 500. We need that warehouse space, and we're so thankful for Freedom and Torch for allowing us to use that. And it's in such a perfect spot for us. And our grandparents, when they come and pick up stuff, it's not far. It's about the same distance from the Georgia line to the Mississippi line that parents can come in. It's really good, well located for us.
What a blessing. So I know
Yeah.
people are listening right now. They're like, I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. But now you know, okay? So now you got to
Yeah,
come
absolutely.
alongside. How can people come alongside? How can they reach out to you and help out?
Well, it's very simple. I'm very open about everything that we have. I can give you my email address. Is very simple. It's Keith Keith at Gap GAP, and then you spell out Alabama.org. Our website is www.gapalabama.org. And my cell phone number, which I give out, is not it's mine. Is 256-698-2297. And I may not answer your call, but if you leave a message, I'll get back to you. I'm probably in a meeting or with some other grandparents or trying to do something. But if not, I'll answer the phone right away and we'll talk and we'll figure something out.
Awesome, Keith. I mean, I really appreciate what you're doing. Like I said,
And we're on the social media platforms as well. Facebook, you can find us on Facebook. Facebook is Grandparents as Parents, and on Instagram is Grandparents as Parents. And I'm on LinkedIn as Keith at whatever it is on that LinkedIn. I
figure it
just
out. We'll
Keith
get that.
Gap Alabama or Keith. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Put it in show notes. We'll get it worked out.
I'm not. I am not a technology person, as anybody that knows me knows that I'm not, and it's something that I probably should get better at. But you know what? I don't have time. This is a 60-hour a week job for me,
Yeah.
easy. It's 7 days a week that I'm doing something, talking to someone, going somewhere, or passing out food, or passing out whatever I may have, and getting these grandparents school supplies, books, pajamas, maybe cooking supplies. Maybe the home doesn't have any cooking supplies, or they're just worn out and they need new. We 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 try to find someone that has something that can help us. And our community is very, very good. Our grandparents are, if they've got something they can share, they share it. If they've got clothes that the kid has outgrown, they pass it on. There is a Facebook page that's dedicated to foster, adoptive, and kinship families that pass around clothes. And let me tell you, there's clothes that go around 3 or 4 times because our parents take care of it. It's and that's a blessing when you see something, a baby bed that may go from one grandparent to another grandparent to a foster parent, back to another grandparent to a foster family. Let me tell you, you sit there and you look and go, that's the way the world should run. That's the way the world should run, and it's a well-oiled machine that some women take care of. And man, let me tell you, they are wonderful at it, and we're blessed to be able to be a part of that.
You're doing great work out there. The people, like I said, they didn't know this is as big an issue as it is. You imagine that school with 3/4 of school grandparents are raising kids. You didn't know that, but now that you do, you got to come alongside and help out. Keep doing what you're doing. And if you're listening right now, if you're watching this right now, please share this episode. Maybe you need a grandparent that needs these resources.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to get involved, but keep sharing this and getting the word out. Let's get them some money. Let's get this some help. He's supposed to be retired. He's working 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
Get him down to 40 hours a week. That's
With no pay.
yeah, you're paying to do the 60 hours a week.
And I'm paying to do it.
But like you said, your steps are kind of ordered. You're the perfect man for the job, whether you wanted the job or not, but you're handling it like a champ.
Doing what I need to do.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate people like you that do that. So if you're listening right now, share this episode. Let's keep getting the word out. Let's get some money. Let's get some funds rolling in there and some help. And we'll see you guys next week on the Huntsville Hustle podcast.